Following his recent unimpressive and some would say controversial win over Artur Akavov, WBO middleweight champion Billy Joe Saunders has said that he actually ballooned up to 210 pounds earlier on this year, and that it took him 6 months to shed 50 pounds to get down to the 160 pound middleweight limit. In English money, 210 pounds is 15 stone, and the middleweight limit is 11 stone 6, I believe. Now, this is interesting to me, because if what Billy Joe Saunders is saying is true here, then that calls into question the number of, or the reason, sorry, for the pullouts that Billy Joe Saunders has had, or the postponements of some of his fights over the past 6 months and longer, actually. Because things have been getting postponed, there have been injuries, this, that, and the other. Perhaps it was all just fabrications, and it was all down to the fact that Billy Joe Saunders was nowhere near in shape, was nowhere near fighting weight, and therefore wasn't ready to get on whatever show Frank Warren wanted to put him on. Perhaps that's what was really going on, and the injuries were just made up excuses. It's also interesting for another reason, because Billy Joe Saunders has split with his longtime trainer, Jimmy Tibbs. And perhaps this might be a reason why. Maybe Jimmy Tibbs saw the lack of discipline and Billy Joe ballooning up in weight. Maybe he wasn't committed to training camp the way Jimmy wanted him to be, and that caused friction between the two of them. Who knows? Billy Joe, in the post-fight interview following his win over Akavov, said that he's going to sit down and talk to Jimmy Tibbs man-to-man. I'm not sure if his current trainer has been put on notice, if he's privy to that. I don't know, but it is an interesting situation, and I'm going to be watching it keenly to see what develops from here on in. If you've got any more information on what's going on with Billy Joe Saunders with regards to his training setup, maybe even with regards to his condition, how he allowed himself to balloon up so high. And I've always said that for the most part, fighters who blow up massive amounts of weight in between fights, particularly when they do it on a regular basis, their careers are normally cut short. Now, some people are going to bring up certain exceptions. They're going to bring up people like Roberto Duran and a few other fighters, James Toney, who had long careers, even though their discipline was not what it should have been. But again, those are exceptions to the rule rather than the rule. And even with Duran and Toney, I mean, they were two fantastic fighters, particularly Roberto Duran, who goes down as one of the greatest fighters of all time and definitely a front runner for greatest lightweight of all time. These are exceptional talents, and exceptional talents can do exceptional things, but even those two suffered because of their lack of discipline. At least a couple of Duran's defeats were definitely partly to blame, were partly down to the fact that he was ill-disciplined and he was blowing up in between fights in weight. A few of his losses and a few of his poor performances. And the same with James Toney. Particularly during his light heavyweight days. The guy just could not stay in shape for the life of him. And he had kind of an Indian summer towards the end of his career. Maybe towards the third quarter of his career, I would say James Toney had an Indian summer. But before that, in the, let's say, midway stage of his career, James Toney was in the wilderness for a long time. After he lost to Roy Jones, he was in the wilderness. No discipline, blowing up ridiculous weights, getting beaten by people he shouldn't have been getting beaten by and stuff like that, having draws and God knows what else. But again, James Toney, a fantastic talent. Roberto Duran, an even better talent. Billy Joe Saunders is not on the level of any of those guys. So the less talent you have, the more vital it is that you stay in shape. And again, even if you are fantastically talented, like a Roberto Duran, fluctuating in weight is still going to get you eventually, at some stage. If you look at lesser fighters than them, Have a look at their careers and see what fluctuating in weight did to them. People like Fernando Vargas, for example. He was known to balloon up in weight. It caught up with him. Ricky Hatton, another prime example. He was known for ballooning up in weight. It caught up with him. Boxing is such a difficult sport that you really can't play around with it. You have to be ready. If you want to have a long time at the top and you want to have consistency and you want to minimize the amount of damage you take, then at a bare minimum, you need to stay in shape 365 all year round, in shape, live the life of an athlete. Billy Joe Saunders at the moment isn't doing that. Hopefully he can get back on track. Hopefully this Akavov fight was a wake-up call. He said it was. And maybe he'll get his discipline back to where it needs to be and stay in condition. Yeah? So drop your comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you feel about this situation. It's your boy Hatman. I'm out.